What can I say about No Time to Die, the new James Bond movie? This is a difficult one because if I ask myself, was it a good movie? I have to say, yeah, it was okay. I generally found it entertaining. On the other hand, if I ask myself, was this a good James Bond movie? I have to say, no, not really. It wasn't atrocious or even bad. It just wasn't really a James Bond movie. It was a modern, watered-down, made for people that are either so die-hard that they will be happy with just about anything with the 007 moniker, or made for people that have no real history or investment with the character. The average moviegoer is going to see this movie, and after they've rubbed the life back into their arse, they're going to say, wow, that was a pretty cool action romance movie. It was a bit long, but worth watching. The average Bond fan is a different kind of viewer altogether because the franchise has had quite a few different Bonds, and people generally tend to side with whichever Bond was their Bond, the Bond they grew up watching. Which means that, in this current age, there are going to be a lot of Daniel Craig fans who will insist that he is the greatest Bond ever, regardless of how good his movies actually are. They'll say Skyfall is the best Bond movie ever, or Casino Royale will never be topped. I might be willing to agree that the opening scene of Casino Royale is one of the greatest Bond sequences on record, but let's face it, Casino Royale was not that great as a whole. Skyfall probably beats it as a complete movie. But this is neither here nor there because you don't have any of that for this final installment of Daniel Craig's journey as the world's most famous secret agent. I say secret, but every bad guy in the world seems to know who Bond is, so it isn't exactly the recipe for Coca-Cola, or location of Atlantis, or even the identity of Jack the Ripper. It's an open secret. Everyone will love the opening scenes of this movie with the DB5 making a welcome return, but that is the best part of the movie before it gets back to the current Bond's favourite activity of looking very morose and unhappy. An understandable expression actually for this movie. Daniel Craig has always been the moody, emotional Bond. He's never truly felt like Bond, at least to me. He's never had the suave sophistication of the character, and instead has always been kind of a rough and ready soldier who happens to have ended up in this line of work through a series of coincidences rather than by choice. That isn't to say that he's been bad in the role. He has done pretty well, but he was never going to be a great Bond. And time has shown this to be true. He will always be an era-defining Bond, a unique experiment away from the way the character has been portrayed for half a century. And perhaps that is why this movie does in fact work as a Daniel Craig Bond movie. Whereas it would have been hopeless as a Pierce Brosnan Bond movie, or a Roger Moore Bond movie, or even a Sean Connery Bond movie. Those guys are too much like the proper Bond. They embodied the original movie character too well. Messing with them in this way would have been painful to watch. But before I get started, please consider subscribing as that would really help me out. And don't forget to leave a like if you like this vid. Okay, on with the review. No Time to Die is a movie that starts out great. It has a fantastic chase scene involving the classic Aston Martin DB5, which is great to see and a nice touch for Daniel Craig's send-off. The action then changes places to Cuba, where we are introduced to Paloma, a CIA agent, played by Ana de Armas, and she is a breath of fresh air, to put it mildly. She was fun, fantastic to watch, and hot enough to burn the cinema down. A proper Bond girl, although the movie subject matter being what it is, there was no hanky-panky, another sign that this is not a normal Bond movie. She was by far the most lively and vivacious thing in this movie, whereas everybody else was dour and depressed with the weight of the world on their shoulders. Either that or maybe they were just sulking that they're about to be replaced by a franchise reboot for the new Bond. Sadly, Ana de Armas has only a 10 or 15 minute role in the movie, after which she disappears and the anti-smiling brigade is back to see through the rest of the somewhat depressing movie. For the next hour and a half there is a lot of talking and going from here to there while not smiling or making any funny jokes. I actually wonder what they brought the Fleabag woman in for, because I thought she would have added some sort of fun to the movie or humour, and if she did add some fun to the movie, I dread to think how it would have turned out had she not added whatever she added. Finally, we get back to the action, and it's pretty good. Land Rover get to showcase their new Defender in a chase around a woodland, which is a nice bit of advertising for what is no longer a vehicle built for farmers and the armed forces, though if your school run involves you being chased by men shooting at you with guns and trying to run you off the road, then well, I'd advise buying a Toyota Land Cruiser, since that's what James Bond would apparently use, and it ran rings around the faux Land Rover Defenders. The final action sequence takes place on a Pacific island, and it is underwhelming, though not unfitting for this movie, since the whole movie is somewhat downbeat, and always on the edge of making you want to top yourself with its bleakness. Daniel Craig kicks bad guy ass, but bad guy manages to force a draw, which is a sad end to a Bond movie, and one they probably hadn't intended. The cast was on the whole okay. Daniel Craig played his version of James Bond the way he's always played him, which will please some and annoy others. Léa Seydoux returns as Bond's love interest, and it gets all complicated and depressing by the end, which makes the final scene of the movie even more miserable. Just when you think Daniel Craig's Bond may have finally found happiness, it is snatched away yet again. I have to eat a bit of humble pie here because I, like many other YouTube commentators, made a fuss over the idea that they would give someone else Bond's 007 designation, and Nomi isn't as bad as the trailers and her own interviews made her seem. She is in fact pretty forgettable and doesn't really have much of an impact on the movie. Ralph Fiennes returns as M, along with Rory Kinnear as Tanner, and they're great. Special mention to Rory Kinnear because he really just fits the part so well. We also see the demise of CIA agent Felix in this movie, which was both sad and meh, because I was never a fan of this incarnation of the character. Finally, we come to the bad guy, and he is a massive disappointment. A seriously annoying waste of everyone's time that made no sense and had so little time in a movie that is nearly 3 hours long that the real motivations for his actions are never really delved into. Played by Rami Malek of, well, whatever it is that he's done. I think he impersonated Freddie Mercury once. Rami Malek is fine as the character. He is creepy, kind of menacing, though not overtly, and generally uncomfortable to look at. But what he isn't is fleshed out. What he isn't is a believable threat to James Bond. What he isn't is a serious foe for a final James Bond movie. There was simply no obvious reason for what he was attempting to do. Maybe the explanations and detailed motivations were left on the cutting room floor in an attempt to stop this becoming a 4-hour movie. For myself, I say bring on the 4-hour, fully explained movies that don't leave half the plot to your imagination. Bring back the mid-movie break so that we can buy a stupid tiny pot of ice cream and go to the bog. I'd rather have that than things not quite make sense. Okay, rant over. Rami Malek was shortchanged by this movie, and so was basically everyone else, because apart from Ana de Armas, nobody had a chance to shine, and that is a shame for any movie, let alone a Bond movie. Okay, now we come to my biggest bugbear in this movie, and that is the way things happen. By that I mean, the levels of coincidence in this movie just felt silly. James Bond runs out of bullets and oh, here's another gun. James Bond needs a rope. Oh, here's a rope. James Bond needs a car that can go off-road. Oh, here's a car that can go off-road. Everything just seemed so contrived that I kept feeling a little like I was watching a Jar Jar Abrams Star Wars movie. It drove me crazy. I wanted Bond to have to work for something at some point, or at the very least he could have cocked a Roger Moore-esque eyebrow at us. But no, we just had to take it as read that if Bond fell out of a skyscraper window, the red arrows would happen to be flying past and pick him up in a cloud of red, white and blue smoke. Actually, that's pretty cool. I might email the Broccolis and see what they think. But seriously, it is just so goddamned contrived. But that said, it is an enjoyable movie. If they had maybe managed to cut 20 minutes out of the middle, it could have had better pacing, but I think it was just the right send-off for this James Bond. I didn't find myself second-guessing the ending. There was no need. We needed a clean break from this Bond, and we got it. So now, we can look forward to Henry Cavill, fingers crossed, giving us the Bond we deserve, a throwback to the style of Bonds like Connery, Moore and Brosnan. Daniel Craig will always be remembered for the opening scene of Casino Royale, and for that moment when he walks up the beach showing off muscles that Bond has never previously had. Although Sean Connery did do some bodybuilding at the time he took the original role. He will, as with all Bonds, be cherished by some and hated by others, and added to the personal ranking systems of hundreds of thousands of fans. He will never be forgotten, and he deserves that place in the annals, albeit from a time in movie history that did the character no favours and stole what could have been a truly great Bond from fans who want nothing more than to see their favourite movie character kicking butt and firing amusing one-liners at foreign agents as he nonchalantly saunters his way through some of the craziest, most dangerous situations imaginable with a hot girl on his arm. This has been Movie Sucks, and that James Bond is a truly great character, and he deserves to be treated the way Ian Fleming would have wanted, rather than the way modern Hollywood dictates. Signing out. Leave a like, share, subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the flip side.